Hey y'all, this is AL Thick Madame, and this is the recap for Love and Marriage Huntsville. So, this episode starts out with Maurice and Kimmy at the house. They're just doing some random stuff around the house. He's trying to get the barbecue grill ready by cleaning it, and she came outside with some lemonade. And she proceeds to tell him that, she actually met up with Mel when she did her little event, and she basically said that whenever she gets text messages directly from her or anybody that wants to discuss stuff about the comeback group, she ignores it because she's just not trying to hear it. You know what I'm saying? Despite the fact that she has stuff going on, she's just like, I ain't got time for it. I'm not finna do it. And they actually have legal documentation about buying it out. You need to sign the buyout, or you need to get on out the group if you ain't gonna be a part of it. So, we should be able to do what we need to do if you're not going to do your part like you agreed to do. And nobody has signed it. So it's like, okay. And then whenever they meet up to discuss the comeback group, it does not go well. Everything happens. People get off topic. It's just crazy. So they're trying to figure out where they're going to go from here, and that they do need to meet up and see what's going to go on. So they ended up having a meeting at one of the houses that Martell and Melody have worked on outside of the comeback group, that they, like I said in the last review, recap, whatever, that they were going to actually do an open house for, because those houses are pretty much done. Anyway, everybody eventually showed up, and before everybody showed up, just the men were there. And what happened was, before they even went on the inside, Marceau and his brother Maurice were outside talking. And you could tell that it was like, ugh. And so Martell rolled up, and he was just looking crazy. And he actually greeted Maurice, and I was like, Lord, this is just ridiculous. How you greet his brother and shake his hand, but you won't say nothing to Marceau. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. So they all went in the house and started talking. And so Maurice is still trying to understand what is really going on. And so Martell goes on to say that his brother knows what's going on, and he trying to make it seem like everything is just all about him, as if he ain't the one out here with all these girlfriends. But he's trying to focus on him and deflect. And so, excuse me, eventually it came up about how that's not the case. And it's funny because Melanie came in the middle of them going back and forth. Then when everybody else arrived, they were like, look, I don't even know how this is going to go. Hopefully this will go well. So they started talking and trying to figure out what's going on. And so everybody is like, look, we don't know what y'all got going on. It just seems like y'all are just leaving us in the dust, and y'all are just making all these moves and not including everybody as a whole in the comeback group. So we want to buy y'all out. Melody was like, nah, what we not finna do is that. If anything, it will be dissolved. And so they looking like, ugh. And so in the confessional, Martell was like, if anything were to happen, if they gonna buy us out, it's gonna have to be over $1 million that they're gonna give us for that to happen. A little bit over $1 million. And I'm looking like, I guess I can see that, but I don't know. And the meeting is going nowhere, and everything is brought up again. And Marceau was quiet at first, and then when he did finally speak, he tried to say that Martell said something about how him and his brother have 20 girlfriends. And Kimmy was looking like, what? And so Martell was like, I don't even know why you brought your brother up. I said, you have like 20 girlfriends. You trying to bring up my one little girlfriend that I had. You had 20. And so he just was quiet again. And so his wife looking like, okay, what is going on? Why he's so quiet about this? And he was just, y'all, excuse me, my little stuff going on. But anyway, that ain't go nowhere. So they were like, look, we ain't finna go back and forth. That's what we have lawyers for. So I guess if all goes south like it's already looking like it's gonna go, they're gonna have to go to their lawyers individually and get it settled that way, because the Holts are not letting up at all. They're just not letting up. They ain't here for the foolishness. They looking like, nope, what we gonna do is continue to do what we doing. Y'all ain't doing nothing. And Letitia did make a point, which was that every time you look around, it seems as though she's only advertising for herself and her husband, and they're never talking about the comeback group. And it's crazy to me. It's like, okay, well, if you don't care about the comeback group so bad, just let them buy you out. Because when she first came in, Melody, she was just like, nah, that's what we ain't gonna do. You ain't buying us out. If anything, we'll just get it dissolved. And y'all can change the name to something else that's not the comeback group. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's too much. So anyway, they're leaving because they're literally not getting anywhere. And then Letitia hangs back and she's asking her husband why was he so quiet in there, and she doesn't understand why he's so quiet, and especially why all that stuff was being said. And so he was just like, well, I mean, I'm just letting him say whatever he want to say, you know. And she was just like, well, I don't understand why you just letting him say what he want to say. You know, if nothing happened, you know, why can't you speak up? And, you know, is there any truth to any of the stuff that has been brought up? And so he hemming and hawing, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. Ever since I first laid eyes on him, I was just like, girl. Every time he sat up there trying to make it seem like, oh, he ain't cheating, it's just something about him. He just seemed like the cheating type. He just do. I don't know what it is about him. I could be completely wrong, but I really do feel like he is a cheater. Whether he has had 20 or more, I feel as though he is a serial cheater. And so anytime she asks specific questions, he asks as if he don't understand what she's talking about. And then ultimately, he was like, well, I can't answer that for you, baby. And I'm just like, what you mean? If your wife asks you if there's any validity to that, and if people just continuously say this, is there any truth to this? You say, I can't answer that. What is wrong with you? Like, you cheating and you know you cheating, just stop. I guess because she'd have had all these children by you and they still young, and you got this very profitable business, because even though he ain't doing what Martell and them doing, apparently, he still has a profitable business. If she were to divorce him, unless they have a prenup or whatever, she gonna roll up. She'll be able to roll up and roll out with a decent amount of money to take care of her and the kids. The alimony gonna be there. The child support gonna be there. She gonna probably get that house. He gonna have to move out. You know how it go. And they in Alabama, so I mean, it's just gonna be what it is. Y'all saw what Melody did. But anyway, they doing a whole lot. Martell met up at one of his friends' houses. And he has like 30 acres of land, which I love the fact that he does. That's how our land and stuff is. I'm sorry, y'all. I can't do it. Anytime somebody talk about land, I live for it because I understand the value of it. But him and his friend, whenever they meet up, they go over there and they ride ATVs, four-wheelers, whatever, and they end up shooting targets, barbecuing, just having a good time. And Martell's uncle, I think he said his name is Dexter, is, you know, gonna show up too. So his uncle did eventually show up, and he was talking to him, and so he was like, you know, how your mama doing? He was like, she good. Then he asked how Mel was doing, and he was like, well, you know, we're not good, and everything is still the same. That girl is still in the picture, and we've been dealing with her, and you know, we were okay, and then she called me out of nowhere. We hadn't talked for like 5-6 months, and she just came out of nowhere. And I'm just like, oh, here we go. So he's still talking to his uncle. And y'all, he had nerve to say, I've been going to counseling. And so I'm glad his uncle asked. He said, well, how long you been going? He said, oh, I went one time. Like, he'd been going around telling everybody he done went to counseling. He going to counseling. Then he even told his wife he going to counseling. And I'm just like, every time we see you, a new day has dawned. Like, I don't understand. You cannot sit up here and tell me that you haven't made time. You trying to make it seem like you are so into getting your marriage back on track and all this. And I just know that counseling is going to really be a great help so that she can see I'm trying. And so I can actually change and be a better person. I just don't understand. Like, he really has been going around to various people talking about, I'm going to counseling. And when his uncle asked him, how long have you been going? He said one time. Ever since that one time, that we saw him on camera go. That's the only time he's been, and there have been several, at least several days that have passed. Pretty sure it's longer than that, but yeah, at least several days. He need to be going to counseling twice a week, at least once a week, and I know at least a week to pass by. He doing the least. I'm sorry, the least. I said what I said, and he just sitting up here talking about something. Well, we were having such a great time, and me and Melody were stronger than we ever were, and then she called, and then it's like he made it seem like yet again that Melody wasn't doing her job and all this other stuff. And it's crazy because his uncle said, well, she is a businesswoman and she has a lot on her plate, and I'm not trying to make an excuse for her, but she's doing a whole lot to be the type of woman that she is, bringing so much to the table. So, whatever. Like, he doing the most. I'm tired. Martell is doing the absolute most. And I'm just like, you ain't doing nothing to fix your marriage. So I wish you would stop sitting up here trying to make it seem like, oh, woe is me. This woman came out of nowhere and started trying to talk to me again. Then it's crazy because one episode you called a woman a peasant. Then a few minutes ago, you tried to make it seem like she was your everything, and I thought that it was okay for me to have one girlfriend since everybody else has multiple. And, since my wife wasn't providing all the needs, it was okay for her to do that. Like, he just kills me how 1 minute this woman is a whole peasant out here, and then the next minute she everything, and let's put her on a pedestal because she was like this friend to me. We were good friends. Oh, you ain't finna say I'm a peasant and you using me, and I am under the impression that I am special to you. And I really feel like he really lied to her for a while. I think now she does know that he's married, but in the beginning, I feel like either she knew and was one of them heifers that don't care that you are married, or she didn't know, and then she became knowledgeable of that fact and just got to the point where she was like, I don't care because Melody's mouth, and if I can get your man to still give me the money that I want, still put me up in these houses, still ride me around in these cars or give me these vehicles and all this other stuff that I've heard, then I'm going to take advantage of it while I can. And you ain't gonna have nothing to do with it, no matter how much you want to get on the phone and try to talk to me when I call his phone. Because apparently when they was on that little ride and the situation went down, she said, this is whoever put Martell on the phone. I want to speak to him. So I'm like, oh, okay. Because she's literally spoken to Melody before. So it's not like this is, oh, well, I don't know who this is answering the phone, but, hey, let me speak to Martell. No, his wife, they literally have sat down and had conversations together on the phone, I think in person at least once. So she ain't no stranger to this. It's just, this is really too much, and I would not have time for none of it. Wait a minute, y'all. So the next scene that came up, and it's showing Letitia at the house with the kids, and so she's doing the little Skype or whatever. Y'all, I always say the wrong thing. And she's talking to her mama, and she was like, look, I heard some things about my husband having like 20 to 37 girlfriends. So her mama just set it off, was like, well, you need to check that. I don't know what's going on. Maybe he ain't had 20. Maybe he didn't have 19. He might have had one. But no matter what, you still need to check that. Tell me why. Tell me why she was like in the confessional after all that was said. And she was like, I just don't understand why anybody would say that. I really don't believe my husband has cheated on me. And then she just sat there. And I don't know why. Whoever the cameraman was knew he was wrong. That was one of the most awkward pauses I've ever seen. Because she was just sitting there like, I was like, what we not gonna do is just keep sitting here looking at her, trying to convince her own self that her husband's not a cheater. I have seen him since the first season, and I looked at him and I was like, he look like he be cheating day in and day out. It's just the way, his personality and the way he come off, he just seems like, I do what I want to do. I screw what I want to screw. And you ain't gonna tell me what to do. I'm just saying. Then her mama that sat up there and was like, you ain't gotta sex that man 7 days a week, but you gotta do something at least 4 of them days. Like, oh gosh, I'm tired. This is too much. I don't like stuff like that. I don't talk about nothing like that with my mom and them. I don't care how cool I am with them. That ain't nothing. That is not something that's up for discussion. No, thank you. So Melody has a speaking engagement at the Boys and Girls Club, and since this is going on, all this stuff going on with her, they're trying to keep up appearances. So she, the kids, and her husband are all getting dressed up and they're gonna go and support her. And I'm just like, it's to the point where she in the house doing the child's head, and her husband is like, "Are we gonna ride together?" Because like it's been time for them to go, and so she looked at him like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is just ugh. So Melody is at the table. Everybody's just waiting around for people to just introduce her, and Martell tries to talk to her. She ignores him, and he goes to the extreme to be like, "Can you hear me?" And I'm like, "Girl, this is so crazy." He's sitting right next to her, and I mean, it wasn't like it was loud in there or nothing. He had the nerve to ask her, "Can you hear me?" I'm like, "She can hear you. She's just ignoring you." And she politely explained that in her confessional. She said, "If I ain't checking for you, then I'm not talking to you. I ain't responding to you. You basically wasting your breath talking to her." So they eventually introduce her. And see, I don't know if she said this before, but she's from Brundage, Alabama. Y'all, everybody that I've ever met, went to school with, worked with, or whatever, who was from Brundage, all of them trying to get away. All of them was trying to get away, except this one lady that I used to work with when I worked in records and registration. She was like in her 40s, and of course, I was in my early 20s at the time, and she, liked going home and all that stuff. I think she eventually did move back to Brundage, but I didn't know she was from Brundage. So I see why she's in Huntsville. Ain't nobody really trying to be in Brundage like that. And that's a nice little drive where I'm from. So I'm like, ugh. But anyway, she got up there and she was doing her little speech, and Martell was recording, and everybody seems to be swept up in her speech. And I'm just like, okay. So, I mean, I'm not going to lie. Melody's speech was pretty good. It was really nice because where she's from, she said that they didn't have a Boys and Girls Club. And I mean, I imagine not, because at least when I was younger, it just wasn't the place that you would think a Boys and Girls Club would be anyway. I think we did have one or a few because we actually are the capital. So but yeah, we had a few. We had one at least. And yeah, so I get it. Martell apparently had been in the Boys and Girls Club when he was growing up. And, she did a little story about that. So it ended up being a nice story. And, he's just hopeful that they will be able to come back together like they have in the past. Maurice and Marceau's mama is moved into her home, and she is hosting her first dinner since she's moved in. And so she's invited family members over. So of course their wives are there along with them and some other people. This guy who they're friends with named Cedric. Y'all, I don't know, I'm probably butchering that man's name, something terrible, but yeah. Cedric. Cedric. That's how they said his name. I'm sorry for butchering your name if you ever see this. Oh gosh. But yeah. So they are all now talking, and him or somebody else asked, what was going on with the comeback group. I don't know if it's Cedric's wife or sister or whoever she is, but she asked how was the comeback group coming, and it was, of course it's not going well. And so Cedric asked, well, who's the problem child? And so Marceau said that it was him and Martell. And, it's trying to figure out what they need to do. And would they be willing to come back together and be friends again and all the other stuff? And Marceau said that he is willing to come back together as friends, but nothing ever again on the business side. So we'll see if there's any truth to that. Cedric planned this trip. So I don't know if it's going to work out or not, but Letitia is meeting up with Melody to talk to her. Y'all, I already see this meeting ain't gonna go too well. So Melody just showed up, and she doing her little fake nice routine that she does and pleasant. And I'm just like, girl. So She was like, well, you made it seem like you had a problem with me. I don't know what the problem is. And Letitia let her know, like, my grandmama passed away and my aunt. And I think she said her aunt with her to her house before. So she knew how close she was to both of them. And she never reached out. So Melody's trying to say, yes, I did reach out to you. We all were in the text chat and we all said that we were sorry for the people that you lost and all this other stuff. And so Letitia was like, no, you didn't. So Letitia took a pause and picked up her little mug because they're at like this little coffee spot, a latte spot. And she like smiled and then took a sip. And I'm just like, girl, that is not the response you give to somebody. That is a very serious moment. And in your mind, you're like, okay, let me just put on this smile and just fake it till I make it. That's not how you do it. Like, no. Like, I cannot. And then Letitia, she's trying to be, what do they say, passive aggressive about it. She was like, okay, you smile, but okay, yeah, whatever. So she was like, no, we did. We reached out. Girl, lies. So she gonna say the reason why she smiled is because Tisha was doing the Tisha thing. Apparently, she feels as though there's something that Letitia does that is just like, okay, here we go. But everybody has already said that Melody does certain things, which she does, like when she does the little fake pleasantries where she just seems super, super happy and her voice is higher than normal. And she's like more proper than normal, I guess. I think that's what they've said before. When she really starts doing the most, she starts speaking the way she normally would. And they like, oh, the real Melody has showed up. So at this moment, we're seeing fake Melody talk. Melody feels as though Letitia starts stuff and, tries to make it seem like she don't know what's going on. She just randomly starts stuff. And I'm just like, whew, oh gosh. And of course she's lost trying to understand what in the world she could be possibly even talking about. Y'all, I cannot. Like, Melody is like draining. She's sitting up here like, look, I ain't got time for this. You doing what you doing. Like, do you have anything else that you want to discuss? I'm looking like, girl, excuse me? And it's crazy because Letitia was like, look, you over here smiling when I'm telling you about things that have happened with people who have passed away that were very close to me. Had I smiled while all of this was happening to you, you wouldn't be here for that. And so she was just like, oh, here we go. So, y'all, I can't do it. So anyway, she was like, is there anything else you want to discuss? And so Letitia's like, yes. And she brought up the fact that she keeps hearing these things about her husband. And she is one of the people who is saying these things. And so she's like, if you've heard these things, why aren't you bringing them to me? Given the fact that all this stuff has been, I wanted to say a certain way. I don't know why it won't come out. All this stuff has fallen on you. All these things have happened to you in the recent past, the exact same situation. So why when you bring that to me? And so she gonna tell her, well, the reason why I ain't bring it to you is because you gonna believe what you want to believe. You ain't even gonna believe me. So what's the point of me wasting my breath if you gonna sit up there and believe what you want to believe and live in your fairy tale world? Y'all, they ain't gonna get nowhere. But next episode is going to be hilarious. Anyway, y'all have a good one. I'm about to go to bed. Y'all have a good one. Like I said, thank you for all the wonderful subscribers. Thank you for the likes. Comment, share if you want to. Y'all have a good one. Bye.